Good afternoon. As part of our ongoing mission to keep people as informed as possible, following a number of short videos that I've run over the last couple of weeks, putting information out to residents, we've thought to freshen it up. It'd be a good idea to include some industry leaders. Over the course of the next week or so, we'll speak to some community volunteers, as well as members of our own staff and other industry leaders. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Martin Chown, who is the Chief Executive of Sellafield Limited. We've got Robert Morris-Eyton, a farmer from the Whicham Valley, different scalable business, but obviously clearly impacted by the coronavirus. And I'm also joined by Pat Graham, who is the Chief Executive of Copeland Borough Council, and we'll chat through some of the issues they've all faced in their own respective businesses. And what we're looking to do, collectively and individually going forward as we start to emerge out of the crisis. Martin, I'll come to you first. Appointed to a new role of Chief Executive of Sellafield in February of this year, clearly one of the most challenging jobs in the country. That was before we even realised what was going to happen with coronavirus, a bit of a baptism of fire.
Yes, Mike, it absolutely is. And trying to make sure that we can keep the site safe and secure, which obviously we are doing, but then think about how we can restart and how we can get Sellafield operational again. Not just for me and for what we want to do at Sellafield, but for the whole community as well. It's been a difficult time, and sometimes it's been exceptionally hard work. We've tried to play our role just for Sellafield and for the communities around us as well. But I am looking forward to when we can return the site back to some sense of normality. It's a very quiet place to be at this time, and obviously not what I would have wanted to start the role. But that's, you get the cards, and you've got to play the cards you're given. And this is what we've got. This is what we're going to deal with, and we're going to come out of this confidently and in a good place in time to come.
Pat, you'll have faced similar challenges at Copeland. We're not long through a major cyber attack that affected the everyday running of the council, and it was, we were coming into the new year with a lot of good news and a clear focus of where the organisation was going. Clearly, this has had to reshape a lot of thinking, and we've had to take a different way forward.
Absolutely. I mean, the cyber attack did prepare us for dealing with major incidents, and that was a nationally significant incident. But I suppose what I didn't need COVID-19 to tell me is that we've got a very, very strong, tight, dedicated and committed team at Copeland. Obviously, our challenge has been to keep things going, the things that really matter around things like business grants, waste collections, and of course, the creation of the hub to support the most vulnerable in our community. So the challenge for us was really to get people out of the office. So we were lucky enough to get almost 100 laptops, which were in very short supply in the first week. IT worked round the clock to get those out to staff to work from home. And what we've seen is a tremendous personal commitment across the whole organisation, from those that are in their spare rooms and kitchen tables, right through to the waste crews who are out there at the front line. It's been tremendous. It's been a challenge, but what we are good at in Cumbria is multi-agency working when it matters, and the support of partners for each other across a number of sectors has been once again exemplary, and I think it's why we're in a reasonably good position today. There's still a long way to go, lots to do, lots of lobbying to do to make sure the support's there, but a good effort, but it's not over yet. We're in it for the long haul, and we're there to look after business and the most vulnerable in our community.
Robert, running a different scalable business with the farm down there, you're clearly have been impacted. What has the impact been on yourself? What issues are you having to face, and what do you see as the next step forward?
As a dairy farm, we have to keep going, and we had to put plans in place. So we had some staff isolating while others working to try and make sure that we always had cover, because we milk 3 times a day and we've been lambing, and we couldn't have managed without our very dedicated team of staff. And they've kept the wheels turning. The milk has always been collected, and our suppliers have been very good in making sure that we're able to source the animal feed and other supplies that we need to keep a busy farm moving. I think it's a very good example that other industries perhaps can look at and see how sort of agricultural merchants and our processors, milk, etc., have adapted to keep their employees safe and make sure that ultimately the food is in the supermarket shelves for the customer.
Thanks, Robert. Martin, your Pat spoke there about multi-agency working and partners working together, and certainly from where I sit, Sellafield have done a tremendous amount to support our efforts. Would you like to sort of elaborate more on Sellafield's community role, and then talk, a little bit about where you are now and how you foresee Sellafield and your supply chain emerging out of this crisis?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Now we are committed to what we do in the communities, both here in Cumbria and other areas where we work as well. And it's a really important part of what we do. We are largely in the community work at Sellafield. So we've got hundreds of volunteers working in the community. We've made significant donations to PPE, thousands of pieces of PPE to the NHS, but also we gave a large donation as well to the NHS. They're the ones that hit the headlines in terms of supporting the community. I think the workers from Sellafield who've been able to put their time in, to put their efforts in on all sorts of different fronts, has been really important as well. But sometimes it's the smaller donations. We're putting lots of money into the food banks, lots of food into the food banks, lots of supplies into supporting the more vulnerable in society. And sometimes they don't hit the headlines, but for the people that are affected by those in this difficult time, that's even more important for them as individuals. They're in a very difficult place. So being able to help those is frankly a privilege and something that we want to do. You asked about how we are as a site. It's a very quiet place to be. I'm sat right as we speak now in the middle of the main office building in Sellafield. Normally it's a very busy place with dozens or hundreds of people around me. Today there's a very few people here, and that way as you go around site it's a similar position on the rest of site. So normally we'd have about 8,000 to 9,000 people on site. At the moment we've got less than 1,000 each day, and it's going to be a challenge to how we ramp back up in a really phased way, which is our plan. We want to maintain all of our worker confidence, make sure everyone's safe and secure and confident to come back to work, and that will be a very long run for us to be able to get people back to work in a safe, phased way. We're going to do risk assessments of all of our workplaces, but I do want to see people start to return, and I do want to see Sellafield busy again, and all the communities around us becoming busy, the town centres, the shops, the restaurants and all of that, but that's going to take time.
Pat, Martin spoke about Sellafield's commitment to the community. You'll deal with that firsthand on a daily basis, managing the relationship with the authority and our largest employer. Do you want to elaborate just on how helpful that has been to us as an organisation and for our residents who we work for?
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate to have a very good relationship with Sellafield, as it should be, and that's our duty to do so. Together, we influence and enable a lot that goes on in the borough. So it's been great, once again, that when the call went out that Sellafield were there for us. And Martin's already talked about things like the PPE, which was essential, and that's been well managed. But also some more basic tasks like delivering food, supplies and some of the logistics. Both Sellafield and the supply chain have been really, really special in that relationship. Also, in some of the early work we did around converting the sports centre into a recovery centre. And initially we had only a few days notice, and whilst the health partners took a lead on making it into putting the beds in and all that sort of thing, our job and our duty was to run that in terms of security, the catering, and Sellafield, stepped forward immediately to make sure that we could enable that. So that was great, and took a lot of pressure off the council, who were already stretched. But also as well, the dialogue we're having now around this new cohort that's emerging of vulnerability, so new people, newly vulnerable, and new people who are financially vulnerable, who may not have been in that position before, who we're going to support and stick with for the medium term until they get themselves back to where they were, and talking to Sellafield about what those needs might be. And I think also what we're starting to see is, some really basic things that our community needs to level up, you know, the life opportunities of our kids and our people in terms of access to IT. You know, we're seeing that through homeschooling and some of the concerns we have that some kids have not got the same opportunities. So I think it will refocus and kind of rebase some of the things that we do together around skills and where we break into that circle. But it's been a tremendous effort, and thank you, Martin, you know, and all of your staff, because it's been wonderful. It's been really truly good.
Brilliant.
Robert, we spoke Friday, Robert, on the phone when we were chatting through, you know, where we go from here. You know, I think we're starting to see some real benefits of the lockdown, and it has worked. Well, you know, people, you know, self-employed were probably come under more pressure than most parts of the business community. You have some fairly strong views on where you'd like to see things go from here.
Yes, thank you. We need some very strong leadership, right from number 10 right down to the locality, to work a way forward so we can get individuals, businesses, where possible, where it's safe, back and working, particularly self-employed. A lot of them in danger of falling through the support network. Having said that, there is an amazing local support system in South Copeland that has done tremendously good work supporting people. But we need now very clear direction and guidance to allow people to use some common sense to get businesses back up and running. It won't happen overnight. It's not going to be across the board. Everybody can go back to work tomorrow, so to speak, but we can cherry pick the businesses that can get going where they're limited risk, and that will really start to make a difference to the communities.
Martin, clearly you run one of the largest supply chains, certainly the supply chain that has the biggest impact across Copeland. You know, what are your plans sort of from now in terms of the supply chain and sort of in response to the comments that Robert's just made?
Yeah, it's really important, and there's no point us planning to come back to work and find our supply chain is no longer there. And it's not just the large suppliers that support Sellafield. We spend hundreds of millions with SMEs a year, and we've raised the amount of money we spend with SMEs since my time with the company, and I'm really proud of the work we've done with that. So immediately, as soon as this started, we were the first to step out and say we're going to pay all of our suppliers, and actually we accelerated the payments to all of our suppliers, and we wanted to make sure that they were getting the money they needed to manage, and they got the work they needed to manage as well. So we took some steps right in the first couple of days, actually. I think we took the decision to close most of the operations on site on the Sunday, and by Tuesday night, we'd issued out our commitments to our entire supply chain about how they would be paid and how they would get the money that they need to stay in survival, so they're there when we come back. So all of that work we did. We've been speaking to our suppliers. My call I had just before this was with 4 of the execs of our suppliers about how we can start to return to work. So they're going to be part of that phased planning, returning to work, and they will be part of the people that are coming onto site. And a few of them actually have been on site during the entire time. So my thanks go out to our suppliers and my own teams, our workers at Sellafield. We've had, you know, hundreds and sometimes up to 1,000 people on site every day during this time. And those people have been coming in and making sure the site's safe and secure. So fantastic effort. As we move forward, we'll be asking that supply chain to come in to continue working with Sellafield. We want to make sure we support them in every way we can. So that's what we're going to be doing, Mike, and they're the immediate plans.
And Pat, the focus for Copeland has clearly got to turn to supporting the area's economic recovery, but also the council's recovery. There'll be a huge financial impact on the local authority, both Copeland, the county council. How do we juggle all those balls?
I think, firstly, to say, and make in response to Robert's comment, that there is a lot of lobbying going on at the moment in terms of, okay, there is some financial support for some businesses, but also there are others that just miss out or don't qualify, and trying to get more flexibility into some of those initiatives to enable businesses to sustain themselves during the period is a focus of a lot of activity from local government as well, because we obviously, through what we do, know some of those businesses and know who hasn't been able to benefit. I think absolutely that includes local authorities who have a commercial dimension in terms of generating income, and we've been pushed very hard by government to go down that route. And as we are impacted by that, some councils way more than us. And I think that perhaps has been a bit of a surprise to government, just how commercial some councils are, and how they are suffering and losing significant sums of money also during this period. And I think the whole world of funding local government, and also the appreciation of what we do, particularly at the district level in a two-tier system, and should be one of the positives that comes out of this, that, you know, it's really important what we do. But absolutely, Mike, as you suggest, that although we're still very much in the critical phase of this incident, our thoughts are already turning to recovery. And to Robert's point and Martin's, we've been closed to tourists, but not closed for business. And a number of people are still trying to run their businesses successfully. Farmers can't stop, and other people are enabling us to all live our lives during this period. But we're starting at the levels, at the Cumbria level, to look at recovery. Government are starting to talk about it, but in a very measured way, because obviously we're still in lockdown and we have no date to end that yet. But recovery planning starts now, and that's everything in terms of, as I say, more flexibility in business financial support, new programs and new things to get us buying local, shopping local, stimulate entrepreneurialism, you know, that will come from this time, you know, and hopefully it'll generate that. But also, as Martin says, just getting our really successful businesses back is really important. And we all want to be safe. We all want to adhere to the rules. There's nothing more important than protecting our workforce. But where we think we can do that safely, I'm sure that there'll be a sensible phasing programme. And as you say, as a business ourselves, we're looking at what our future looks like in terms of that balance between home working, office working, servicing our communities at the point of contact, but also more digital by default. And, you know, we didn't do much of this 3 months ago, this Teams, but now it's, you know, absolutely hardwired into our daily business. So I think from a business perspective, missing the opportunity to do something different, to modernise and to be accessed differently and run services differently would be a real shame. Actually, it's thrust us forward, and let's keep moving forward. But it's really important that our people and our most vulnerable people and our businesses and our communities come with us on that journey, and we stay together. And of course, what we've seen, I've talked about Sellafield, but in terms of communities, faith groups, community groups, just enabling us, there's been some fantastic examples of how we sustain and support each other, and it'd be great if we keep that going.
Would I agree? Robert, on behalf of the small businesses of Copeland and Cumbria at large, you know, what's your expectation of political leaders such as myself, Trudy Harrison, our MP, and industry leaders of our large-scale businesses managing large supply chains like Martin does, and if you had a message to send, what would that message be?
I think we need to look forward and almost in an aggressive way, rather than looking back and being very negative about things. We need to have very clear guidance from our leaders, what we can do, and use best practice from other industries, for example, agricultural supply chain, and let's really push forward to get things done, get things moving, get things going, because by doing that, we will then provide the very important money back through the economy, particularly to all the self-employed and the small businesses. It won't work immediately for everybody. For argument, tourism may be a business that is going to have to be slightly behind, but a lot of the smaller manufacturing businesses, construction, etc., I believe there's no reason why a lot of those subject to proper risk assessments can't now be cracking on. So we need very clear steer and lead from number 10 right down to into our local locality yourself, Mike.
Martin, sort of same question to you. You know, you're running a large scale mission, and you know what would be your expectation of the local authority you work with and MP in supporting that mission?
Interestingly, I thought that last answer you gave them was actually almost the same as mine. Is although we come from different areas and different industries, clearly, that's exactly the way that we can start to recover from this properly, is by getting the money flowing through the economy, through all of the business tiers. And I'm not just talking about, you're right, there is a large engineering manufacturing segment that supports Sellafield and a huge construction element. We just started on a big £7.5 billion construction framework, which is going to be going on for the next 20 years. And the peak years of that will be putting £500–600 million of construction just on the main Sellafield site. So there's huge amounts of money which gets the headlines, but there's also the hotels, there's also the restaurants, there's also all the taxi firms, everybody that supports Sellafield. We need lots of stuff in our community. We need food, we need laundry, we need everything to run a large industrial site. So getting that system up and running again, getting that money flowing through the economy is the best way that we can bring Cumbria back to where we need to be. Now, we need the support of yourselves in the local authority to be able to do that with clear direction on health policy from Number 10 and Public Health England. We also need, and we've got, the strong support from the unions. They've been absolutely fantastic in terms of helping us step forward and with our plans on how we get going forward with our progress. And we need the support from our workforce. So our workforce needs to have that confidence. Those risk assessments that you described are already in place, and we've been doing some of those already. And we need to bring Sellafield back up and running, and the rest of the local community in Cumbria back up and running.
Yeah. You know, in conclusion, Robert, thank you very much for joining us today. I think it's given us a real good insight into the pressures businesses like yours are facing in the current situation, and it's great to get a viewpoint of the way, you know, a map out of this. Really helpful. So thanks for joining us today, and you know, I'm sure the people tuning in will find that really informative. You know, as I said at the start of the meeting, we intend to run a series of these type of meetings with business leaders. And Martin, you know, hopefully you'll join us again, because people, you know, the impact Sellafield has on the whole community. You know, people will be interested to see your updates on a fairly regular basis. So thank you for joining us today. I think it's been really helpful. And you know, Pat and myself will be conducting a number of these meetings over the coming weeks with varying groups where we get an input throughout the community. So is there any remark anybody would wish to make in conclusion, Robert?
Let's crack on and get going, get the businesses up and running. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Martin?
Just for everyone to stay safe, and let's get Cumbria working again.
Great. Pat? Pat?
Yeah, I heard something on the radio the other day, which was there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel isn't necessarily straight, and you don't always see it. So I think let's get moving. Let's get to that light at the end of the tunnel, and the future starts now. There's lots to do, and I think we're really energized to go for it. And I think we've got the relationships, the passion, and the commitment to, you know, to recovering from this situation and maybe coming out stronger.
Thank you all very much for joining me today, and I'll be speaking to you all very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank
See
you.
you soon. Cheers.